What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. And in this one, similar to last week, I'm going to lay out all the reasons why I am still bullish on the crypto market. Honestly, this isn't everything. That list might actually get too long, but these are the key topics, as well as what I think visually can be easily displayed on the chart for everybody's understanding. So let's dive straight in. Alright guys, I think we covered some of these last week, but things have changed a little bit, I wanted to add some more stuff to this chart, some different stuff, replace it with a few things. So I found it useful to cover again, plus we had a little pullback, so I think everybody needs to hear it, and let's go ahead and dive in. So up top in green we have DXY, we have Bitcoin in blue here, we have the Russell 2000 in the candles, with Bitcoin dominance in the cyan, the teal, and we have, what is this? Oh, ETH BTC in orange and Others BTC in maroon here. First off, starting with the DXY, I'm probably actually going to make another video on it this week about potential even further downside, like real plunge in the DXY because of the Japanese yen, because of what the Fed might have to step in and do, as well as the Treasury Department. That's for another video. But anyways, currently we do have DXY below its kind of macro floor that it had from January of 23 to April, March of 25. And that's the same thing we've seen in past cycles. It's the same thing we saw in 2021. I was following that fractal very closely in here. And then in 2016, we just had a straight up falling DXY. If you guys don't know, a declining dollar is going to be good for risk on assets. It's an indication of where the money is flowing, whether it's going into assets or whether it's being stored into dollars. And so you definitely want the DXY declining, but at a minimum, you want it below its kind of macro range. And you can see all of this times up. I'm saying you want to see things here, you want to see things here, but you can all see that it all times up with these vertical bars that I have here. This is Bitcoin, so obviously you want Bitcoin going up to get the final parabolic top in Bitcoin. Anyways, that's kind of a joke, just trying to be ironic. Russell 2000 here. This is one of the main drivers. This is like the real key to get all of this kicked off because it's very obvious. It can't be hidden. So when the Russell 2000 is breaking out of its macro range, make sure you guys can see all these. We're breaking out of its range, breaking out of its range, breaking out of its range. Kind of dicked around a little bit in here this cycle, threw us for a loop, but nonetheless, strong push on the monthly time frame now. Very hard to deny that. But when it's breaking out of its range, Russell 2000, it has to have liquidity to break out. These are US small cap companies. Typically, the stuff nobody pays attention to unless there's money gushing out of the system. And hate it or love it, that's what Bitcoin is currently too, right? There is this kind of debasement aspect to Bitcoin, but when you do get currency debasement, you're printing a lot of currency. There's money gushing from everywhere, a lot of liquidity that hurts your savers, which is why we have the debasement trade that people talk about, right? So that's kind of the logic behind that. Or anyways, Russell 2000 has and will be a early indication of this stuff going on. We also have, like I said, Bitcoin dominance in here. Obviously into the final parabolic peak of Bitcoin, what are you also going to have at that time? You're going to have altcoins outperforming. There's finally euphoria in the market. There's finally extra liquidity for altcoins, and they are going to pump. They're going to have fun. Retail is going to pour in all the same stuff, irrational exuberance you guys know and love. You also see that time up when the Russell 2000 breaks out. We have yet to see it play out, but we're waiting. We're waiting patiently. This should be reassurance on these pullbacks and things like that. Russell 2000 isn't closing back below, DXY isn't breaking above range highs. All these things are still in a line with what we typically see in these cycles and things like that. Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. Obviously, for Bitcoin dominance to decline, Ethereum priced in Bitcoin needs to be increasing. You can safely assume that Ethereum's breaking out. Ethereum is doing well in times like this. And also too, if you refer back to my other videos this week, you can see monthly momentum building on Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. You can see monthly momentum building to the downside on Bitcoin dominance. Again, this is monthly time frame stuff that we're talking about here, guys. So very hard to deny that, in my opinion. If you do, go ahead and bet against it. We're gonna have to get the liquidity from somewhere. But what am I trying to say? We're seeing other confluences even within the momentum. That's kind of the point of saying that, right? Bitcoin is hairy. Yes, you have people telling you 50-week EMA. You have people telling you all these things. You have all of these things to get sketched out about when you just solely look at Bitcoin and even Bitcoin's momentum. But when you take a step back and you look at the market as a whole and you look at some of these monthly momentums on other charts, you have all the confluence that you could need. Others BTC, I have a video covering Others BTC this week, so if you need that, I would definitely check that out. As to even outside of monthly momentum picking up on Others BTC, what am I trying to say? Just some even more near-term things about potential signals coming out of there. Obviously, Others BTC doing very well, while ETH BTC does well, doing very well while Bitcoin dominance rolls over. And this is kind of made some videos on these topics down here earlier in the week, and I don't want people to get confused. Like, he's telling me Bitcoin can't have topped because the altcoin market hasn't topped, or momentum in the altcoin market is pointing some way. Like, doesn't that seem backwards? Yes, Bitcoin is going to be the key that unlocks this stuff. We're not going to get this Bitcoin. If Bitcoin moves sideways for 3 years and Russell 2000 moves sideways for 3 years and the momentum builds at a slow pace for 3 years, yeah, right? I'm going to look insane for 3 years. But the second that Bitcoin pops, all of this stuff will come into play. Is kind of my point. Okay. So I'm not saying it to say that altcoins are taking king over Bitcoin and driving this market. But I'm saying so long as these things are in play, it's only a matter of time waiting for Bitcoin to show its legs. So you can kind of deduce going backwards too. I wouldn't do this on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis even. When I have almost a year's worth of data pointing to increased momentum in things like Ethereum price and Bitcoin, when I have 6 months of data for Others BTC, monthly momentum increasing while hitting certain key levels that we look for when it comes to pullbacks and things like that, while having weekly divergences and all these things show up in other areas of the market, then you can feel safe to kind of work backwards, or at least give you the hope of, like, not even the hope, but the confluence of I want to be positioned despite what this 50-week EMA is saying, despite what people are saying about Bitcoin, despite the 4-year cycle, despite all these things. If these dynamics are in play, I want to have exposure to that and I want to be positioned for it. And I think that's the big key, is you cannot go backwards in time and reposition. I can position now, and I can, yes, I will take a haircut if Russell 2000 rolls over. Again, this is a monthly chart. Monthly momentum looks fine, but let's just say all of this breaks and Bitcoin rolls over. I'm going to take a haircut, yes. But the alternative is not being positioned for everything that I'm displaying here. Okay, so I want you guys to understand that. And also, when you combine all these things with sentiment of the market, it just makes it even better. Everybody's saying that alt season is not possible, Bitcoin's dead, 4-year cycle's over, all these things, showing you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charts that say otherwise, all high time frame, all on the monthly time frame. Right, I have another video this week dropping specifically about the DXY. So I just think it's really, really interesting to see these things playing out. And then also too, like I said, with sentiment not matching, it's only more confluence. Anyways, guys, I think we covered what we needed to cover in this video. I also have more in-depth videos about multiple aspects of these charts that you see here. So make sure you check those out this week. Feel free to reach out in the comments with any questions you might have. And I also have a link to my free Discord in my bio if you're interested. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.